come with me as I tackle the downstairs of my house post Easter. So this was a Saturday morning. We'd had a super busy morning, taking our kiddos to their football lessons, come back, I'd gone for a quick run, and then we had lunch, which I had prepared in the morning, which was a lasagna. So there is kind of all the Easter stuff, all the Easter chocolate, all the debris from making the lasagna, being rushing around, and just generally it's a bit chaos. So I needed to tidy up from lunch, but also just like the house in general have been getting a little overwhelming, particularly the kitchen and the kitchen island. So I thought, you know what, I will set a timer because, I love a timer, and I will try and get as much as I possibly can get done. And I needed a shower after having been for a run, but I thought, well, I might as well get even more hot and sweaty before I have my shower. So I kept my running stuff on and I set a timer for an hour because I am under no illusion that this is not going to be speedy if I want to do it properly. However, I know that if I set a timer, I can rush around and get a lot more done. So immediately that I set the timer, my husband starts coming around faffing in the kitchen. I was like, no, I want to get cracking with this. Get out of my way in the nicest possible way. Move. So my husband went outside to mow the lawns. The kids were out playing. My 2-year-old was in and out. So the boys were outside playing. They absolutely love playing with the neighbors' children. We're really lucky that we have a big green space in front of our houses. We have no road in front of our houses. It can be a bit annoying when it comes to getting the weekly food shop in and you have to take anything up from the car. You have a little bit to walk, but it is awesome for being safe, being quiet, and having a really lovely space for the kids to play in. So we do have a back garden, but our boys love nothing more than playing out front with the kids, for the neighbours' kids. So my husband was out there mowing the lawn, keeping an eye on the kiddos, and then kids are in and out asking for various things, mostly snacks, cuddles, etc. And my 2-year-old, she was pretty tired. We're trying to break her nap at the moment. So she's just over 2.5, and we're finding that if she naps in the afternoon, any kind of nap, then it takes ages to get her to go to sleep in the evening. But we're in that kind of in-between phase, where she kind of needs the nap, but then if she has the nap, it's a disaster. So she was very tired. So she was mostly in and out, watching a little bit of Hey Dougie, which is her fave, or having some mummy cuddles, or then she would go back out and play with the boys and be with my husband. So this kind of video, I feel shows you what it's like when you're determined to get something done, but you also have children and mum life to juggle, because things did not exactly go to plan if the plan was just to get my head down and get things done. So I started off by emptying the dishwasher so that I can fill the dishwasher back up. And I have a few jobs that I have been meaning to do. So tidy up the kitchen island is a big one, pack away all of the Easter stuff, and I also want to bleach the work surfaces and the sink. So the sink is a white sink, and it's some kind of hybrid enamel sink. I really like it, but it does show every stain, and it has got quite stained. I like to bleach it once a week, but I haven't done for a couple of weeks now. So it's a job that I really want to do. I also want to clean the floor, which is looking pretty grubby. Now, I would normally at the start of a clean like this, I would try and get everything up on top of the table and then put our robot vacuum cleaner on so that it can be doing one job while I'm doing other things, and then I can just speed mop or whatever. But my 2-year-old absolutely hates the robot vacuum cleaner. She is petrified of it. She cannot stand to be in the same room as it, and it makes her cry. So I do not put it on when she is around. I only have that on at night when she's in bed, or if I'm working from home and I don't have any phone calls, then I can stick it on then, for example. But I don't want to scare her, so I'm going to need to sweep the floor, and then I want to mop the floor. So yeah, those are the jobs I want to do. As you can see, kids are in and out asking me questions. Can I do this? Can I talk to so-and-so? Can I knock on my friend's door? We have got our kids in a good habit of they don't knock on anyone's door to ask anyone's kids to go out to play unless we know that they are going there, and then they're only allowed to knock once. My eldest, there's Eddie there, he is obsessed with YouTube. I don't know if all kids are, but he has a couple of favorite people he likes to watch on YouTube, and he thinks it's really cool that mum makes YouTube videos, but he cannot not understand why I would want to make them about cleaning the house and decluttering and all those topics, which I find very enjoyable. But still, he's very impressed that mummy makes videos for YouTube, but he likes to try and be in them if he can. And I'm not that worried about having the kids in like the background of videos, but obviously don't want to make them a feature of the videos. So I try to encourage him not to spend too long in front of the camera. And just in general, you know, when I'm filming, I'm very much filming me and what I'm doing rather than filming the kids. So once I have got the dishwasher all filled up, I basically, as I'm filling the dishwasher, I'm putting things in the sink that cannot go in the dishwasher. I mean, most things go in our dishwasher, even if things say that they are not dishwasher safe. I kind of like to try things out, and I'm like, well, if you don't survive, there's no room for you in this house. But there are a few things that we know do not cope with being in the dishwasher, or are like the wrong size or whatever for it. So once I've got the dishwasher on, it's time to wash up a few things, wipe down a few surfaces, and also wanted to have just a wipe around the oven window I'd done a bit earlier because I'd made the lasagna, and basically I'd had time to assemble the lasagna before we went to football, and then part cook it in the oven. So I just cooked it for like 15-20 minutes. Then I turned the oven off and I left the lasagna in to like continue to slow cook whilst we were at football with the kids. And then when I got back, I got the lasagna out, but because it had been slow cooking for so long, it basically meant that like a bunch of condensation had built up in the oven. But that was kind of good because it was a good opportunity for me to wipe down the glass. Then I was like, well, now I'm here, I'll take out the liner of the oven, give it a little wipe around the bottom of the oven. And like, I'm just not finding that we're using our oven as much now that we have got an air fryer, but I still do like to use it for some things. So we have got this like extremely scrubbable paint on our walls, and is like the best decision when you have young kids. So it was a recommendation from my decorator friend. She decorated our house and she has young kids too. And she was like, you need to get this scrubbable paint. So, and I have thanked her every time I have washed down the walls, which is almost daily. The walls behind the bench where our youngest kiddos like to sit for their meals tend to get lots of sticky handprints on. And I had noticed when I was sat for the lunch that there were a lot of handprints on that wall. So it was good to get those washed down. And then I get the chairs up, and then I'm kind of getting myself set up for a position where I can end up cleaning the floors. So tackling the tray that lasagna was in, or was a bit of lasagna spillage, getting that sorted. And then I wanted to put, basically after tipping out some of the debris, I wanted to kind of sink the oven liner into the water and just have that like sit there for a bit because it was pretty sticky. Now to tackle the kitchen island, but you know, being a mum, so my husband was out there mowing the lawn, which meant my 2-year-old wanted to mow the lawn with him, but the handle keeps coming loose. So she brought it into me and asked me if I could fix it, which of course I can. And I've learned as a mum to just take the time to slow down a little bit. Like if I can say yes to them, I try to. I read some advice once, which was like, you know, why not? That was, so if you can say yes, then why not say yes? Like if a kid asks you something, first ask, why not? Because I think a lot of the time my reaction is just to say no because it is inconvenient to me. It wasn't what I had planned, and I'm a woman that likes to make a plan and I like to stick to my plan. So when the kids come along and they ask me to stop doing what I'm doing and do something with them or for them or whatever it may be, my instinct is to say no because that is not what I had planned. But since listening to this advice some time ago now, I always ask myself first, why not? And it's been super helpful, and I think in general it just helps us all get along a lot better. Like, can I say yes to this request? So in this case I was like, you know what, it's only going to slow me down by a few minutes. Who cares? In the grand scheme of things, my daughter continues to be happy. And like, if you think about it, fix the lawnmower, she took the lawnmower back outside and then she was pretending to mow the grass while my husband was actually mowing the grass. She was having a lovely time. He was able to get the jobs done he wanted to do, and then I was able to continue with the jobs I wanted to do. So it's like win-win-win. So next up, I want to gather everything together, which is like grouped like items. So all of the Easter decorations in a pile, all of the toys that need to be downstairs in a pile, anything that needs to go to the car in a pile, anything that needs to go upstairs in a pile, because I have a bit of a habit of flitting from room to room, like running back and forth and basically wasting time by getting distracted by the things. Or, I'll pick something up. Oh, this needs to go into the boys' bedroom. Up I go. I come back. I see something else. Oh, this needs to go here. So now I try to slow myself down a little bit in order to save time ultimately by looking at like the whole area and saying, right, what needs to go upstairs here, picking all of that up and then looking at the room, more widely. Is there anything else that needs to go upstairs while I go? Pick all of that up, then go upstairs just once, put things down, come back. So in the meantime, my kiddos had asked for a snack. Now the snack had been requested by my daughter because she had had a nasty bump to her finger. I don't know if you saw me bring her in, but I had her off camera and I had to help clean up a very nasty scrape on her finger, and it was nasty and she was in a lot of pain. There were a lot of tears, and bless her, she had scraped her finger and she had, it was bleeding, and for like a 2-year-old this was a pretty nasty bump. Nothing too serious. I could be mended with cuddles and a plaster, but she was, she needed some proper cuddles there. So I cut that out, but it was a significant period of time spent cleaning up her finger, calming her, putting a plaster on after we had decided on which one. I managed to find a Minnie Mouse plaster. I definitely need to get more Disney plasters because I'm running low and I mostly have Star Wars, and that is not acceptable to my 2-year-old. So we need more plasters. But once I had fixed her up, then she was requesting popcorn, and I had popcorn that you can like pop yourself in the microwave. And you know what, I kind of see where she's coming from here. Like if I've hurt myself or I'm feeling pretty sad, then oftentimes I will think, what kind of yummy food will cheer me up here? So I think that was the vibe she was going for. All the kids then got popcorn, and again, it's like the why not? Like at the end of the day, if I say yes to this because I can say yes because it's just going to take a few minutes to make the popcorn, then they can sit down with a little movie on, have some chill out time, have some popcorn, and everyone is happier. So again, another chunk kind of out of the timer here, but this is mum life. This is what happens. People request snacks, people have accidents, people need cuddles, people need popcorn, people need little lawnmowers fixing. So in the corner there with the Easter eggs, like basically now I totally understand why when I was younger, my mum used to insist that we eat one Easter egg, finish it, and then move on to the next one. Because I ended up with a lot of open Easter eggs because I said yes to opening 3 different kinds of Easter eggs. They wanted the one from mummy, they wanted the one from grandma, they wanted the one from granddad. And then I drew the line at 3. I was like, oh, you have to start finishing some Easter eggs before we open any more. They had 4 each basically. And then I was like, instead of having all of these open Easter eggs taking up like so much space in the kitchen, I took the biggest box for each of them, took all the packaging out of the Easter eggs, and then put the Easter eggs in their foil and all the little sweeties that came with them into one box. So 3 Easter egg boxes went down to 1 box, and then they had stuff in their baskets from their Easter egg hunt. I squeezed those into, and then it was a good opportunity basically to start getting rid of packaging, do the recycling, breaking down boxes. Why is breaking down boxes such a workout? Like this box in particular was so thick, I could really feel the muscles in my arms working. But it was good to get those done. I ordered some drinks from a TikTok shop, and whilst they were really they were drinks I like, drinks I have anyway, and they were really good value buying them from there. I did feel guilty when I was breaking down the box. Like it's probably not the best environmentally, is it, to order stuff from there? I always feel like this about Amazon too. Like, can I get it in a supermarket? Can I get it in a more local shop where then I'm getting everything at once and I'm not requiring like so many deliveries to the house? But anyway, there we go. We live and we learn. So I had some stuff that was by the table that I sorted out for my friend. This is clothes of my 2-year-old that she'd grown out of, and a potty that she doesn't need anymore. So we'd cleaned all that up, ready for my friend. And I was like, do you know, I had other stuff which was in our outside storage unit. So I was like, right, let's sort all that out and put that together. Then the kiddos needed a top up of popcorn, of course, after I'd washed my hands, so don't panic. After I'd done the bins and the recycling, I'd washed my hands before I did the popcorn. So now we are back into the kitchen and to the oven liner, which has been soaking. And this, even though it had been soaking, and that definitely helped, it was really hard to get all the stickiness off. So I was like, I'll take it out, put it on the work surface. I got some Fairy on here, which is for my American friends is our equivalent of Dawn dish soap, really good degreaser, and then put some physical elbow grease in to getting that cleaned up. So that was looking way better and should help me out when I'm using the oven, because I started to notice, like, you know, when you put the oven on to like heat up, getting a teensy bit, maybe not even smoky, but just a bit that you could smell that there was some burnt food in there. So that will help out no end there. And I'm really pleased to get that job done. I'm not doing like a massive deep clean today, but I am cleaning some areas of the home more deeply, and that's what I always aim to do. It's like not a spring clean. I do not have time for that. I wish I did, but I do not. But deep cleaning some areas, like bleaching the sink, like doing the oven liner, etc. So what often feels like no time at all, the hour was up and I put some more time on the clock. This is another snack that's been requested here. Now, my kids did not eat terribly well at lunchtime. So my eldest, he always eats really well. He's got a big appetite. He ate with the lasagna. My middle child is definitely the fussiest one. He did not do well with the lasagna. And then my youngest, she was kind of in the middle. She did okay, and she ate the veggies okay. But I feel like toddlers, it takes them a while to get to grips with protein and like meats and fish. So she's, you know, a plain pasta and veggies kind of gal. And I have packed a lot of veggies and lentils and all sorts into this lasagna. So, and I do that, you know, I ultimately got to make food that we like as well. I don't want to just make food which is quite beige and plain for the kids and then not enjoy it myself. And also I think that the more foods that they are exposed to, the better they get at eating, so that we'll end up in a position where they are, you know, a bit older and loving foods which have got more complex flavors and more veggies and things packed into them, and they're not there going, oh my god, I can see a bit of onion in this, like they do often now. But it meant that on days like that where I maybe push them out of their comfort zones, then they are hungrier for snacks. So they've had the popcorn, they had a couple of biscuits, and by that point then it's like no more sweeter snacks. You know, it's a weekend, we're a bit more relaxed, but it has to be, if you're really hungry, then you have fruit. If you don't want the fruit, you're not really hungry and you can wait till the next meal. So that is my kind of general rule there. So I had some things in the corner behind the Easter eggs, which I sort of forgotten about, some batteries that I needed to charge, which just would not charge. So in the end, I gave up on them. And then I had some other batteries that I had charged that I needed to pack away. So I got the battery packs out. I have a really great battery organizer, but I just needed to like actually do that job, sort those things out, pack them away. And, you know, again, it's just some of these jobs, they sort of sit around. I leave things out in different areas of the house, and I know I need to do something with them, but I never quite get around to doing it. So I wanted to do some of those things today, not everything, but just the things I came across that I thought I could handle. We'd had a coffee spill on our hob in the morning, and my husband uses this sort of Italian stovetop espresso maker, and where we had been rushing around like headless chickens trying to get the kids out to football while I decided that I had enough time to make a lasagna, then things had gone a little awry. Coffee had been spilled. My husband had mopped up the worst of it at the time, but we absolutely did not have time to clean it up there and then he's out mowing the lawn, and probably, to be honest, totally forgotten about the coffee. But we're not a family where we'll, you know, if you made the mess, you clean the mess. We're very much like, if you find the mess, you clean the mess, and you don't leave it for somebody else necessarily. Very rare that I would see a mess that somebody else has created and think, well, I'm going to leave that for them, because it feels a bit petty to me, you know. And I would expect my husband, if he found the mess that I had made, that I had either forgotten about or had not got around to tidying, that he would deal with it himself as well. So I'm just giving the cupboards a little wipe down here. They are not too bad, but you know how, I mean, they're kind of like a shaker style, and you get a little bit of dust kind of on the cupboard fronts there. So it's always good to give them a little bit of a wipe down. Now we're getting there with the kitchen island. It is not perfect, because this is a lived in home. It is a family home. You know, there are biscuits left out on the cake stand by the end of this video, and there is a little bit of paperwork left to one side, because it needs to be actioned, and it can't be actioned on this particular day. It's something to do on Monday, so I want to have the paperwork out so I don't forget about it. So now I am being harassed by my 2-year-old while I sweep up. And she's definitely lost her patience by this point with me tidying up. I'm talking to her the whole time, trying to involve her the best I can. We're putting songs on Alexa for her to sing. We've got a movie on, But also, I do think it's quite good for kids to see that sometimes just jobs need to get done, and sometimes it can be a little bit boring on the weekends. Like, we did have some fun stuff planned. Everyone had done football that morning. My boys have like a football class, and then I had just started my 2-year-old at baby ballers class, which was super cute. So she'd had a really good run around. They'd all been outside playing with the neighbours' kids when we got back. And then it was a case of, mummy and daddy need to get some jobs done because we're working in the week. It's really hard to get those things done, but it was nice weather, so we could get the lawn mowed, and I needed to tackle this house as best as I could. One thing I did not get around to doing properly was the downstairs loo. Like, I would have liked to give the downstairs loo a clean around, but also I feel like it was the universe telling me not to bother wasting my time, because inevitably one of the kids had a little mishap in the toilet later on in the day, and then we had to clean the whole thing anyway. So I did clean the floor when I was cleaning the floor here, and you will notice that rather than mopping the floor, I'm on my hands and knees. And there is a good reason for that, because every now and again I like to clean the floor really thoroughly, like on my hands and knees with a cloth. And my mum always said she felt like this was the only way you could really properly get a floor clean. Now my floors are oak. I can't just like chuck lots of water down, and I cannot use a steam cleaner, and there's also sorts of things you can't do. So I have to be careful with the floor. But because I hadn't run a hoover around, I hadn't put the robot hoover around, even though I had swept, there was still a little bit of more dust than I would have liked on the floor. So if I'm going around on my hands and knees with a cloth, then I know that I'm going to get so much more off the floor. And then I can also do the skirting boards. I can see if there are any spills. Like, once I'm actually eye level with the floor, I can see so much more, and I get so much more cleaned up. So I had put bleach down on all the work surfaces and on the sink, but I think I missed that when I was filming. So what I'm doing now that the bleach has sat for a bit, is just getting that all cleared up, washing that all down so that I can then put the chairs up on the kitchen island before I get to that bit of the floor. So when I am cleaning the floor with like a cloth on my hands and knees, then I make sure I empty out the bucket and I'm getting fresh water several times. So I think I used 3 or 4 buckets of water for this particular clean. I put a tiny bit of all-purpose cleaner in the water, but technically I shouldn't because it's an oak floor. So it's I absolutely love our floor. I think that the floor looked beautiful. However, if I could go back and do things again, I would get an engineered oak floor, which is where you have like, I think, plyboard, which is built up and compacted together, and then you have a layer of real wood on the top. Means that the wood moves a lot less, but also you can clean it with a bit, you could actually go around with a steam mop then and clean it, and you can use like proper cleaning chemicals. It doesn't wear in the same way. So our floor, we are definitely at the point where our floor really could do with being sanded and resealed. There are many places in our floor where kids going around on or ride on vehicles, chairs being scraped, etc. It's just worn away a bit, really. But that is such a massive job to do. You basically have to move all the furniture out, and then you have to get in heavy duty sanders. Once you oil the floor, you have to leave it for a couple of days and not walk on it. Like, I don't even know how we would begin that with the kids. It feels like a 2-week job with the kids not living there, which is not an option on any level. So sadly, I just don't think we're going to be able to make it happen. So the kids are absolutely exhausted by this point. Like, everyone is tired out, as you can see. And they were watching Woody Woodpecker movie and getting annoyed with me because I was in the way. So I'm trying to knock any crumbs from the biscuits that they've had onto the floor so that I can then sweep everything up together, and then I can get that part of the floor cleaned. So my daughter was quite interested by me banging out the carpet at this point, and thought it was quite amusing. And I think just having like that big bit of floor clear of the carpet, it's a big space, and it suddenly appears much bigger when the carpet isn't there. And if I'm honest, by this point in the clean, I've kind of had enough as well as my kids. Like, this had taken me longer than I guess I'd expected. So I'd originally set the timer for an hour. I have added time at various points. I have ended up adding a total of 2 hours basically. So it was 2 hours in total for me to get to that point. So at this point, I've taken my kiddo to go and have a wee, because unless she has a reminder, she forgets. I'll keep that in, okay?
Hi guys, my mum's gonna my mum's gonna show you cleaning, okay?
Okay, thank you, Baba. Eddie had begged me to let him help me film, and it was a struggle actually to think how he would help me, but I needed the timer reset for the final 15 minutes, so he was very happy to do that. It was also a good lesson for him in actually setting the timer and remembering what 15 minutes looks like. And then we got cracking with the rest of cleaning. He kept asking me if there was anything else he could do, which I thought was so sweet, but I really don't want my kids to be in too much of my videos. So but instead you get to have my large rear making its way backwards across the kitchen floor. So how lucky are you? And honestly, I still think Eddie finds it most bizarre that anyone would want to watch me cleaning. And if I'm honest, we're going to say, do I find it bizarre? I love to watch other people cleaning. I love to watch the transformation myself. And it's why I enjoy doing like a big project like this. You know, when I look at somewhere and I think, oh my God, it's such a mess. Like, how am I going to get on top of things? There's also that part of me which is like, oh, you know, I have this opportunity to do like a really big clean. Like, the bigger the mess, the more fun it is to clean it up. I don't know. So you can see a good example here of where the floor is quite different in tone, and we've got much lighter areas where the seal, the sealant, the oil that was on it has kind of worn away, and that does affect the ability for, like, if you spill something on the floor now, and it's something which, let's say it's berries, say my kids spill some blueberries and then someone walks on them, like, you can expect the floor to stain now in places, whereas if it was properly sealed, then that wouldn't happen. You'd be able to just wipe everything off, it wouldn't soak into the wood. So it's definitely a bit of an issue for us. This area of flooring is better, it's not as worn away, and I guess it's because it doesn't have as much footfall perhaps as the other area of the floor, but also because it's the newest. This is part of the extension that we had 4 years ago now, and when we did the extension, we managed to keep the flooring in the rest of the house, and then we matched the floorboards in, and we had to match the levels in, and the builders put that back in. So then I needed to stop again because my 2-year-old had had her plaster taken off of her poorly finger, and then it started bleeding again, so she was upset again. So then we had to clean it up again, and we had to put another plaster back on. So I had cut most of that out, but she is tired because now we're in the afternoon. This is when she'd ideally like to have a nap, but she's not napping. We're keeping her awake, so she is getting a little bit emotional as we get into the afternoons, and yeah, but her brothers cope with that pretty well, and they're really good supporting her and giving her lots of cuddles. So finally we are in a place where we can get the chairs back down, and I can show you how things are looking after 2 hours. If you'd have told me it would have taken me 2 hours with all of the stopping that I needed to do, then, you know, I maybe wouldn't have gone into it feeling as thrilled. But I am really pleased, particularly with the kitchen island. I can't tell you how much more peaceful that is. I did not get around to tackling any of my desk, which is looking a little messy, but I'm just going to have to do that on Monday morning before I start work. Things in the kitchen are looking much better. This is a lived-in home. There are still things that, yes, ideally could be out of sight, but it is much, much better than it was looking. The kitchen island is just giving me all kinds of calm feelings now, and I just have to put the rug back once the floor is fully dry, which it wasn't by this point. We will tackle the desk another day, but I call that a success. I will see you in the next one.